Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I have another film review for you today, and it is the 2014 film Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman, and was directed by Luc Besson. Um, this is a movie that has been on my to watch list for quite some time now, as so many are. Um, it is difficult sometimes to watch all the movies you want to watch, and sometimes you have to put some on the back burner and get round to them when you get round to them. And this was one of those movies. It wasn't one of those that I was itching to see, but I knew I wanted to see, because it was quite an interesting concept. And the basic story here is that Scarlett Johansson at the beginning of the movie is kind of like playing it a bit like a dumb blonde, and her boyfriend, who she just started seeing, and I think they're in Tokyo, I believe it is. He wants her. He wants her to deliver this briefcase into this hotel room, and it's clear that there's something dodgy about it. And she initially refuses, and he fastens the briefcase to her wrist with handcuffs and basically forces her to do it. So she goes in this hotel room, and it all goes pear shaped. There's like these Japanese mafia turn up like Yakuza type thing, um, kill the boyfriend, and take her upstairs. And she's absolutely terrified. And Scarlett Johansson's acting at this point I thought was really tremendous. She really did portray being terrified very convincingly. Um, and they basically make a deal with her. Well, they don't even make a deal, they force her to transport these drugs. They like cut her belly open and put these experimental drugs inside her, and they force her to transport these drugs. But before that can happen, she gets put in a room and she basically gets beaten up by these Japanese thugs, and they kick her in the stomach. And there's like a chain reaction that happens with this new experimental drug, and she becomes something else very quickly. Um, and the concept of the movie here is like, what would happen if you could access 100% of your brain's capacity? I think currently we use something like, I don't know, 12%. And the theory is, which is where Morgan Freeman comes in. You see him doing a speech near the beginning, and he theorizes what would happen if we use like 20%, 30%, 40%, and he can't even fathom what we would be like as a species if we could access 100%. Well, right across the world, we have Scarlett Johansson, who, due to this experimental drug inside her, allows her to use these new abilities because she's accessing more and more capacity of her brain, and it shows like keeps flashing up on screen like 20%, 25%, 30%, like it keeps increasing, and she keeps getting more and more powerful. So that's what happens really. And initially, she goes after the gangsters who did what they did to her, and then she realizes how powerful this drug is, and it can't get onto the market. So she targets taking all these drugs off the market, and then she contacts Morgan Freeman, and she's like, "This is happening to me. What do I do?" And he suggests sharing the knowledge, sharing her experiences. So that's her next focus after that. But all the while, she's being chased by this Japanese mob, and to a certain degree, like the law. But she kind of ends up teaming up with, I think it's the French police, um, by the end. Now, this film has a strong start. The first 30 minutes is really gripping and really interesting, and after that, it just becomes very sci-fi in a very unbelievable way, really. Um, and you never really feel, once her powers kick in, that there is she's in threat at all. You never see her being in threat again once the powers kick in 30 minutes in, which, if you like, doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat anymore. It's interesting to watch at times, and the effects and stuff are great, but you didn't feel any threat for her. Um, I mean, it does. For me, it felt by the end it was becoming like a Lawnmower Man clone, just modern and better effects, and essentially that's what she becomes by the end. Very much like the Lawnmower Man, if you've seen that movie. So I thought the originality tailed off by the end, and I kind of thought that Morgan Freeman was pretty much criminally underused, really. I mean, you've got Morgan Freeman in your movie, you need to give him a little bit more to do. And he's not in it a great deal, and when he is in it, apart from his speech at the beginning, which I found interesting, when he's giving his speech to an audience about what would happen if your brain capacity increased, other than that, I didn't really see the point of his character. And there's a great scene between him and Scarlett Johansson when she contacts him over the phone and demonstrates her powers. That's quite good too. So I thought it was an interesting movie, but I thought by the end it became so ridiculous he kind of were taken out of the movie, because it just got more and more bonkers by the end. But it's very watchable movie, but not a classic.